Hi, I'm Dongxiang. Welcome to Digging into China, where we explore China in depth to review unique perspectives. The Ministry of Transport recently published China's passenger transportation statistics for January through July 2025. The national total urban passenger volume declined by 2.7%, with taxi passenger volume, including ride-hailing services, dropped by 4.7%. This decrease in passenger volume suggests that market liquidity is rapidly falling as deflation in the Chinese economy intensifies. A crucial characteristic of a market economy is liquidity. When resources and factors within the market can flow freely, they find their optimal allocation through prices formed by free exchange, thereby maximizing the efficiency of resource utilization. If a market's resource liquidity is decreasing, it indicates a decline in both the efficiency of resource demand and supply, a corresponding reduction in the benefits generated over time, and ultimately economic recession. The drop in China's urban passenger volume specifically illustrates a slowdown in the mobility of human resources. The largest catalyst for China's economic growth has been its demographic dividend, and this reduced mobility of human resources reflects the true state of economic decline. During China's previous period of rapid development, the swift movement of human resources was a key factor in boosting economic efficiency. As vast numbers of China's underutilized workforce migrated from rural areas to cities, the government spearheaded the construction of numerous transport infrastructure projects, such as expressways and high-speed rail, continuously increasing the speed of this flow, which in turn accelerated economic growth. Concurrently, fast movement of people within cities primarily relied on the construction and expansion of rail transit like subways and urban light rail, and ride-hailing services. Consequently, passenger volume is a critically important indicator for monitoring whether the Chinese economy or any particular city is continuing to develop. In early October, I published a video discussing the sharp fall in ridership for urban public buses and rail transit. What was noticeable was that while passenger volume for public transit and rail dropped significantly, the decline for urban ride-hailing services was even more pronounced than for public buses. Beyond the sheer drop in passenger volume, the ride-hailing sector also exposed the dire livelihood situation of tens of millions of unemployed individuals. The emergence of ride-hailing was driven by the economy's demand for increased human resource mobility. The traditional taxi industry, due to its cruising model and the high costs resulting from traditional urban management practice, could not adequately serve passengers who needed fast transportation. With the rise of the internet, its operational model allowed passengers to secure a specific time for their ride. Furthermore, the flattened organizational structure of ride-hailing platforms resulted in lower management costs, making the ride-hailing fare cheaper than that of traditional cruising taxi. This facilitated the rapid growth of ride-hailing services worldwide, including in China. As of December 2024, the number of ride-hailing users in China had reached 540 million, with the entire ride-hailing market valued at 500 billion yuan. Given the industry's large market size and relatively stable demand, it has become a safe haven for the unemployed amid China's high unemployment rate. A massive influx of jobless individuals has joined the ranks of ride-hailing drivers, bringing the total number of registered drivers on these platforms to over 100 million. Of this group, over 20 million are actively driving, with more than 7.5 million holding official licenses. Thus, driving for ride-hailing coupled with food and package delivery is collectively referred to as the Ironman triathlon, the preferred choice for China's unemployed. According to the 9th National Survey on the Status of the Chinese Workforce, conducted by the All China Federation of Trade Unions in 2023, the total number of employees in China is 402 million, with 84 million workers in new forms of employment. These new forms of employment workers primarily include food delivery riders, express couriers, ride-hailing drivers, and designated drivers. This indicates that the employment number in the Ironman triathlon is approximately 80 million, a scale equivalent to the entire manufacturing workforce in China. Statistics from Chinese research institutions show that the average age of those working in food and package delivery is around 30, while the average age of ride-hailing drivers is about 40. Surveys reveal that over 3/4 of ride-hailing drivers chose to work after becoming unemployed. This suggests that ride-hailing has become the primary option for most middle-aged individuals who lose their jobs. Moreover, over 2/3 of ride-hailing drivers are the sole earners in their families. In other words, in more than 2/3 of these households, the ride-hailing income is the only source of family support. If ride-hailing drivers cannot earn enough, over 15 million households will face significant difficulties meeting their basic needs, positioning the ride-hailing industry as the final buffer for social stability in China. Starting in July of this year, economic data indicates that this final cushion for social stability has begun to experience a catastrophic breakdown. The Ministry of Transport data from January through July shows that the volume of ride-hailing orders fell by 4.7% year-on-year. Furthermore, according to the official Chinese National Ride-Hailing Regulatory Information Interactive System, the total number of ride-hailing orders for the third quarter of this year, July, August, and September, was 2.37 billion, a 22% decline compared to 3.03 billion orders last year. When combined with the Ministry of Transport's January to July data, we can conclude that the ride-hailing industry experienced a sudden, dramatic drop starting in July, with the rate of declining escalating sharply from 4.7% in the first half of the year to 21.75% between July and September. Simultaneously, with a decline in total orders, the number of licensed ride-hailing drivers increased by 9.6% by the end of June compared to the end of 2024. Based on this data, the average number of orders per ride-hailing driver from July to September decreased by over 30% compared to the previous year. Furthermore, due to the reduction in order volume, the per-kilometer fare on ride-hailing platform is also sharply falling. The non-peak per-kilometer fare on the Gaode platform has dropped to just 0.85 yuan. Considering the decrease in order volume, the increase in driver numbers, and the decline in the per-kilometers fare, the average income for each ride-hailing driver in the most recent third quarter fell by approximately 35% year-on-year, meaning their income decreased by more than 1/3 compared to the previous year. According to the report from the China New Employment Forms Research Center, the average monthly income for a ride-hailing driver in 2024 was 7,623 yuan. Therefore, the average monthly income from July to September 2025 is estimated to be approximately 5,000 yuan. Is it possible to earn a living on 5,000 yuan a month? I saw a ride-hailing driver from Shijiazhuang calculate his budget on Douyin, China's TikTok, in September. The average hourly income for a ride-hailing driver in Shijiazhuang is about 20 yuan. If one drives for 10 hours a day, deducting 1 hour for mandatory rest and meals, the time generated income is 9 hours, yielding a daily income of 180 yuan. Working 28 days a month brings the total to approximately 5,000 yuan. Renting an electric vehicle with a ride-hailing license costs 3,500 yuan per month, averaging 125 yuan per day. Daily charging costs 40 yuan, and food costs 30 yuan, totaling 195 yuan. Consequently, the income from working 10 hours a day is not even enough to cover food, requiring a daily out-of-pocket expense of 15 yuan. To make any profit, one must drive for 12 hours a day, meaning leaving home before 7 a.m. and return after 7 p.m. With such an intense work schedule, the money earned per month after accounting for food is only 700 yuan. To earn this meager income, 8% of Chinese ride-hailing drivers suffer from lumbar disc herniation due to prolonged sitting, and 52% suffer from stomach problems because they cannot eat on time. The industry's catastrophic third-quarter collapse compared to last year has directly resulted in average earnings that are insufficient to sustain the drivers' personal lives, let alone subsidize family expense. We previously noted that over two-thirds of ride-hailing drivers are the sole earners in their families. What transformations will occur in Chinese society when these two-thirds of ride-hailing drivers cannot support their families and children, even by driving 12 hours a day? The ride-hailing industry, once considered the last safety net for the unemployed, is silently collapsing within the cold government statistics. On the Douyin platform, many ride-hailing drivers are lamenting the hard and poverty-stricken lives they have endured over the past 3 months. Yet, a significant number of these drivers still believe that the recent slow business is merely temporary and that it will improve by the end of the year. They operate at a loss for now, believing that perseverance will lead to success. This mirrors how many sectors anticipated an economic rebound after the 2023 pandemic. However, over the nearly 3 years from 2023 to the present, the longer they persevere, the worse business gets. Some whose cash flow runs out have to declare bankruptcy and close, while others with family savings continue to hold on, hoping that the next year might be slightly better than this year. This mindset is in fact quite perilous. Since the 1990s, the whole of Chinese society has been on an upward trajectory of economic growth. The few brief periods of deflationary troughs is encountered were overcome safely within 2 to 3 years through economic expansion policies. Consequently, the vast majority of Chinese people lacked the mindset or practical preparation to cope with a major economic crisis. However, with the end of global economic and trade integration, China can no longer rely on expanding external demand to fuel its economy. The domestic economic deflationary crisis will therefore become an incurable cancer. As long as the social system cannot be reformed and wealth distribution remains fundamentally unchanged, the end of this deflationary crisis will be indefinitely postponed. All sectors considered buffers for social stability, including ride-hailing, express delivery, and food delivery, will inevitably crumble under the pressure of plunging demand caused by the economic deflationary defeat. This is why many veteran ride-hailing drivers on Douyin reminisce about the market 4 to 5 years ago, where a net monthly income of 8 to 10,000 yuan was easily achievable by driving just over 10 hours a day. The ride-hailing industry is a typical microcosm of the Chinese economy. The massive increase in its workforce reflects the extremely high social unemployment rate during the rapid economic downturn. Concurrently, the sharp drop in market order volume and the price reveals the significant contraction in consumption resulting from the economic slump. As the pressures of both supply and demand caused by the economic downturn exerts a two-way squeeze, the ride-hailing sector, this essential buffer for social stability, will be fully overwhelmed within the next 1 to 2 years. The ride-hailing industry, along with the other two parts of the Ironman triathlon, will sadly contribute an additional 80 million struggling families to Chinese society. While our attention is focused on the intense US-China trade war, China's ride-hailing industry is collapsing. Because most of its workers are unemployed individuals on the fringes of society, the failure of this massive employment market of over 20 million people is unfolding very quietly. There is no loud outcry from the mainstream media, virtually no sympathetic attention from government leaders. Only the steadily accumulating discontent and fury among China's lower classes. Thank you so much for watching. If you find this video helpful, please like it, drop a comment below, and hit the subscribe button right here. It really helps YouTube suggest my video to others. I'll be back with more content soon. Until then, be well.